Good afternoon, everybody. It's David Schlotthauer here with another detailed tropical weather outlook and discussion for Thursday, July 31st, 2025. Now, in this tropical weather update, I am going to give you the very latest detailed information on when will we see our first tropical depression, tropical storm, or hurricane in the main development region as we begin August tomorrow. So in this update, we will be breaking down all those details. Now, if you haven't been here before and you do find the tropical weather outlook and discussions very helpful, detailed, and informative, please don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit that bell notification icon to get all of my daily tropical weather updates, hit that like button, and share this video with your family and friends on social media, because if we do get a tropical storm or hurricane making landfall in the United States, in the Caribbean, within 24 to 36 hours, we will be doing all night live streaming here on the YouTube channel. Now, with that all being said, here's a look at the latest GOES 19 true color visible satellite imagery provided by Dr. Levi Cowan at tropicaltidbits.com. There's a link in the description below this video. And as we can see the satellite imagery very carefully, there is definitely a lot of dry, stable, warm Saharan air that is in place. We can clearly see that just by looking at the low-level cloud cover filaments, indicating that there's a lot of stratocumulus, showing us that there's a lot of stable air out here in the MDR as well as in the Caribbean. In fact, someone left a comment yesterday from Jamaica saying there hasn't been rain for a very long time and they are in desperate need for more additional rainfall, telling us that area hasn't had rain in quite some time, all thanks to the lackluster of tropical wave activity moving in the Caribbean or through the Caribbean over the last month. Here's a tropical wave, however, on the satellite imagery, but this is the one that models were thinking that, wow, this could actually develop into a tropical storm or hurricane, and this was like 7 days ago. As of today, though, this looks very unhealthy. Looks very anemic looking, not much convection at all, and it is being swallowed by a lot of dry air surrounding the system. We're already starting to see that here with our next wave coming off of Africa. This is also going to struggle due to a lot of dry air coming in out of higher latitudes. And this has been the concern, and this has been the thing over the last month or so, where we have had way too much stable, dry, warm air aloft, keeping things at bay. So now when we take a look at our latest European model for this afternoon on the 31st of July, you can see there is our weak tropical wave that is moving across the western main development region in the southwestern Atlantic. That's not going to develop at all whatsoever. There is strong model consensus that there won't be any development with that tropical wave whatsoever at this given time. Now, going over the next 3 days, things look very quiet out here in the deep tropics of the Atlantic. Nothing to be concerned about at all, which is good news. So if you're doing anything in the deep tropics, if you're headed down there for vacationing, looks pretty good. And that will continue all the way through the next 7 days, where we don't have any sort of tropical waves that would likely develop into any tropical storms or hurricanes over that 7-day period through the first full week of August. However, we do have a weak tropical wave out here in the central MDR that is bear watching, and some other models are still picking this up quite nicely. Now, moving this forward all the way into day 10, we see a tropical wave right here transversing the eastern Caribbean into the greater Antilles, bringing some showers, some thunderstorms with it. But otherwise, nothing to be concerned about at all in the way of formation of any tropical depression or storm. While out here too in the eastern main development region, we are looking nice and quiet, although the the West African monsoon gyre is still going on out there, which does indicate there's always that possibility that we do get a spin up. Now, going all the way out to the very end of the forecast, we can see there is a tropical wave right here, and there's another tropical wave coming off of Africa. And this is the time zone that we're going to need to be watching in the middle of August for the potential of tropical development coming off of Africa. There have been some model signals back and forth on that, with a weak wave moving over here in the central Caribbean. Although no development is being seen here at all, the artificial intelligence model is very different in that aspect, and I will show you this and I will compare different models. Now, of course, there's been some X posts, I'm sure, about this, including some YouTubers making videos and cherry picking models, such as the artificial intelligence model saying, oh, there's going to be a hurricane that hits Florida or Louisiana or South Carolina. The artificial intelligence model cannot be taken seriously at all. It's only a 2-year-old model that we have recently introduced, and it cannot always be relied on, okay? So you'll see here, nothing develops, but it does go a little crazy with that second tropical wave coming off of Africa in about 6 to 7 days, as you can see here. And then down the road, it develops it into a powerful hurricane. Okay, there's not going to be a hurricane. There's a 0.01% chance this actually is going to verify. Okay, it's just not going to happen. The 0Z model had the same thing, a powerful hurricane off the Georgia coast, near Tallahassee, Florida, Jacksonville, Florida. All right, if we look at the 06Z run, it had something very weak, and that was last night's run. So this is going back and forth quite drastically, and therefore we cannot rely on it at all. Please don't take this seriously, all right? Other YouTubers are saying, oh, there will be a hurricane by the 15th or the 16th of August. I am not agreeing with it whatsoever. There is a very slim chance of that actually coming to fruition. Looking at the GFS model, let's look at that right now, because it's also showing not much formation out there in the MDR. We can clearly see over the next 10 days, nothing to be concerned about. The fact that the GFS has been this quiet for so long, it has been very repetitive. It's been refusing any TC Genesis out here in the MDR through the 15th of August, which is a outside possibility versus the Euro and the artificial intelligence showing tropical wave activity. Now, looking at the Canadian model, it's a different story. And sorry if I'm not going through time stamps here. It's just because this is there's nothing really focused on. I'm looking at this broadly along with you guys. So you can see here in the next 3 days, day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7, there's just nothing. There's just nothing out there in the Atlantic. Although, again, we are going to have to watch for more tropical wave activity as we go into the second week of August and the third week of August as we get into the middle part of the month and then into the latter part of the month eventually, where climatology, this would favor best for a lot of development out there in the MDR. Cape Verde season is upon us, folks. So now that we talked about our deterministic forecast, including the very bullish Fantasyland artificial intelligence model from the Euro, just going absolutely insanity, absolutely unacceptable at showing that hurricane hitting Georgia and the Carolinas, when in reality, it's nothing to be concerned about since it is literally about 15 to 16 days out. That is a little over 2 weeks away from happening. So rest assured, it is too far out to be concerned about that. So now let's take a look here at our ensemble forecast from the Euro, and you can see a pretty low signal out here showing up on the ensemble. So there is not as much confidence with that second wave coming off of Africa. It seems like these look like they're going to develop until we get about 7 or 8 days out, and then they models back off. And that's just been the thing all of July. We have threatening development and it doesn't follow through. And that continues as of late July into early August. And it looks like the first 10 days look to be rather quiet here, according to the European ensemble forecast. Now, looking at the GEFS forecast, the American ensemble prediction, yeah, rather low signal. There's just not much out there going on. Although there are some models picking up maybe a tropical depression or so with winds of about 30 to 40 miles an hour. Right now, because of the uncertainty, how we have seen things evolve over the last month, I'm not putting too much money into this right now, and I am going to be quite generous at saying that I don't see development right now for the first 8 to 10 days of August, which is great news because the later we get into the hurricane season, and if it stays quiet like this, the lesser the chances are that we don't end up seeing a very busy hurricane season. Not to mention that could change as we do go into September. But right now, it looks like the first full week of August and even into the second week look really unfavorable for right now. So with that in mind, the National Hurricane Center does not have any highlighted area out on the NHC website, which I 100% agree to. I do not see any concern of any tropical development at all. Some tropical waves moving through right now, the MDR, but they are not expected to develop at all in the next week, which is great news, including my friend Nate that could actually go flying in a Cessna and actually look at the sky and thank the sky and thank the weather how great it is. Because, boy, if there's a hurricane, he wouldn't be flying in his Cessna of this given day. So now the chances of a tropical depression happening over the course of 10 days are really low. As you can see here, anywhere between a 5 to 15% chance of a tropical depression forming in the next 10 days near the eastern portion of the Caribbean, the western main development region. And then, of course, this is all mischief over here. There's a 5 to at least a 10% chance of a tropical depression to form in the next 8 to 10 days off the eastern seaboard of the United States. So, in other words, don't be concerned. This is very low chances for any formation to happen here through the 10th day of August. And the chances of a tropical storm, look at this. Over the next 10 days, there is no chances whatsoever of any tropical development at all in the Atlantic. Now, of course, the gray zone would be 5% chance. So there's probably a non-zero chance in this general area, maybe a 1 to 2% in that 10-day period to seeing something impact those islands. But I mean a 2% out of a 100% chance. That's a 98% chance that you will not see a tropical storm. So now we're going to shift gears, and I wanted to show you all a couple of people on X that put a lot of time and money into making these graphics. This is actually from the Weather Network. Source is Colorado State University that actually made this, but I want to give a special shout out to Rush on X for tweeting or mentioning me in this post. And this is a good example of it's not the number of named storms, people. It really isn't. And I actually showed Nate this, by the way. A big shout out goes to you, Nate. If you end up watching this video today, because I know you have a lot going on this evening, big shout out goes to you here because we reviewed this together last night. And it's not about the number of named storms here. And we can clearly see what makes a difference. We had 11 named storms here, okay, in 1926. But look at the accumulated cyclone energy. That was a very, very impactful, dangerous season. 229.6 ACE points. That's a lot of accumulated cyclone energy in the Atlantic, and that was the fourth most active Atlantic hurricane season on record from an ACE perspective, but from a name perspective, it was a very, very, very inactive season. All right, and that is why going forward here, and I even told my friend Nate this, that will be part of our live streams when it comes to the tropics of those 24 to 36 hour preparation streams before a landfalling hurricane. I even told him that I'm going to use the ACE score over the number of named storms because the number of named storms don't matter as much as the ACE itself. So in 2017, that was a very busy season relative to its name, the number of storms, 17 named storms. And then down here, you have 12 named storms. But look it up here. We had 28 named storms with, guess what? That was the second most ACE producing season of all time in 2005. All right, but yet look at 1933. You only had 20 named storms, and yet that was the top rank of any hurricane season, producing the most ACE out of any season. In fact, there were like 6 or 7 major hurricanes that were long tracked. Maybe 1 or 2 Cat 5 hurricanes. It was a very, very, very impactful season. So again, don't wrap your head around the numbers as much as the ACE score, because the ACE score is much more important. Another graphic that I wanted to show you is from Andrew Austin Adler. He's a really good, he knows his stuff in the tropics. I would highly recommend go follow him. I even hit the like button, and I'm even going to repost this on my own X page, because this guy knows his tropics absolutely well. Go check him out. So he made this graphic showing us what are the chances when you look at these models and you look at the hours from that event of occurring. So let's just say we had a tropical storm or hurricane 384 hours out. Well, look what it says. Are you literally insane? Like, that means that's likely to not happen because it's so far out in time. Now, in theory, in hypothetical terms, it can happen. We could have one of those unique model runs that actually comes to life that far out. It sees something 17 days out and it keeps it in the forecast all the way through. It doesn't happen very often at all. So I wanted to make that point clear. And so when you see green right here on this infographic, the precursor is already there, meaning that if there's a tropical depression that had formed already and the models show it, it's likely to develop and it's likely to impact you depending on where it heads. And then when you get to the yellow highlighted color here, somewhat questionable, something to watch. So that means there's a middle child here. There's a 50-50% of it occurring or not occurring. So that's how you need a forecast. So something that is 7 days out, somewhat questionable, something that we really need to watch. But of course, other YouTubers out there don't take this into consideration and are like, oh, this is going to happen because it's 10 days out. It's relatively close in time. Well, look at 10 days out, questionable, needs more evidence and time. So it's in the orange, all right? So please take this into consideration when you forecast a tropical system, unless all models agree on a system like the Canadian, the GFS, the ICON, the artificial intelligence, and of course, the European model. When you have all these models agree on one thing and they remain very consistent, that's how we can get a very accurate, reliable forecast, if that makes sense. Now that we took a look at our 850 millibar vorticity plot from all of our reliable global computer models, let's now take a look at our environmental forecast, because background state, not quite favorable yet, and that is because we have a lot of dry air out there. And there has been a post, I should have shown it here in today's video, from Michael Lowry, that the Saharan dust actually has been well below average, near record lows for the month of July, never seen before since records began. And you might be wondering, but since there's not much Saharan dust out there on average, why are the tropics very inactive right now in the Atlantic? Well, one thing has to do is the MJO. The Madden-Julian oscillation is not in a favorable configuration to give systems their ripe in the MDR or in the Southwestern Atlantic. And the second thing is, just because you don't see Saharan dust does not mean there is no dry air out there. Saharan dust is a symptom that there is all this dust coming off of Africa. There's dry air out there, but sometimes you could have a ton of dry air and no Saharan dust off of Africa. And it can still be just as bad, if not actually more impactful, if it weren't for the dust. So putting this into motion, all these brown colors here indicate there is a lot of dry air in the deep layer atmosphere, all the way from about 10,000 feet above the surface. That's where like a Cessna will fly. That's where your prop planes typically fly at, all the way up to where commercial jet airliners fly, which is at about 30 to 35,000 feet above the surface. So this is a deep column of the atmosphere showing a lot of dry air that is coming from higher latitudes due to anticyclonic wave breaking activity. And as long as that remains impactful, the Atlantic is just not going to get active. There's nothing about it. This is going to continue. These tropical waves look very juicy. They look promising, but that dry air is just in the dang way. And that's why we're not going to see any formation. As you can see here, all the way to the very end of the forecast, we have all of this dry air that is still in place coming from higher latitudes. But the pattern is going to change. That's what I still believe. By the time we go beyond the 15th of August, I strongly agree from some people out there on X that the background state will slowly begin to change. But the MJO right now is definitely in question because it's going to really de-amplify once it gets into phase 2 and 3. It's going to go back into the null phase. And so that means the MJO looks very incoherent once we go into the middle to the end of August. Destructive wave interfering pattern coming across the Atlantic, which might actually lead to more formation problems than not. So will we get a busy August? That remains to be seen right now. So with that being said, if you did find today's tropical weather outlook and discussion very helpful, detailed, informative, and life-saving, please don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, folks. It really helps the channel out a lot. I have some great things coming to the channel, including 24 to 36 hour live streaming coverage before a landfalling tropical storm or hurricane impacts any part of the United States or the Caribbean. I got my friend Nate, I got my friend Easy, I got Ethan B, I got people behind scenes here waiting to help me out here when it comes to a live stream on the hurricane when it makes landfall. So I got things ready to go for you all. So if you have not subscribed yet, this is the time to doing so, and also hit the bell notification icon to get all notifications here on the YouTube channel, as well as share this video with your family and friends on social media. And I'll be back with you more tomorrow afternoon with another tropical weather outlook and discussion. Peace out.